Hey listeners, it's Kara, your host. After 176 amazing episodes and hundreds of book recommendations, I wanted to make it a little bit easier for you to find your next great read. The Bookish Lights Roadmap is your guide to all 175 podcast episodes, sorted by genre so you can quickly find the stories that fit your reading mood. From picture books to adult novels and everything in between, it's the perfect way to explore past episodes and discover new favorites. You can find your copy of the Bookish Lights Roadmap at www.bookishlights.com/read/roadmap, or just click the link in the show notes. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights, a podcast where we tell our stories through our favorite books. Each episode features a bookish guest where we will talk about reading, life, and the seasons we're in, all through a thoughtfully paired book flight of recommendations for you. If you're looking for meaningful book recommendations and a space to slow down, you're in the right place. In today's episode, I am chatting with Amy Schweizer. Amy is a Marine Corps military spouse of 11 years, mom to 3 boys, and an expert in youth sports development. She has played soccer for over 20 years, culminating with being a member of the Cincinnati Ladyhawks of the USL. She is the founder and owner of Tiny Troops Soccer, a developmental program for children ages 2 to 5 with over 35 locations worldwide. She loves creating physical activity programs that benefit the overall well-being of military children, families, and the surrounding communities. She is also a passionate advocate for military spouse employment. She has published her first book, I Will Be Okay: Adventures of a Military Kid, and was selected as the 2021 Inspirational Leader of the Year by the Rosie Network. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Listeners, I was so honored when I got to meet Amy at a conference we went to last year because my kids went through this Tiny Troops program that we are talking about if you're not familiar with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get to meet the person that started this program that my own children went through. It was such a fun moment for me.
Yes, it was. It's always fun meeting people who have been through it. I almost feel like a tiny little mini celebrity in that moment because they're like, "Oh my gosh, my kids have talked about Coach Amy, and here you are." So it's super fun, but just seeing like the real life impact of, because it's easy to forget that that there are real little people being in your program all over because I didn't get to actually see everybody. So it's so cool, and I was super excited to meet you.
Yeah, with over 35 locations. I mean, it's really hard to
Yeah.
absolutely meet
Yeah.
everybody. But it was such a special program. And I feel like those balls, because you get a soccer ball that has
hmm
Tiny Troops printed on it,
hmm
they followed us around for a real long time until they, like my kids just ended up
Yeah.
destroying them, which inevitably happens to all soccer balls in our house, not just Tiny Troops.
Oh yeah, my boys are all soccer players. We have like a graveyard of
Yeah.
soccer balls. So yes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is a great bio about you, but I also feel like we're so much more than that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my husband actually has since retired. So we have moved back to Illinois, my hometown, and I have 3 boys, like I said. And so we are now enjoying retirement life. But getting into the military, I always love to share the story because that kind of is the background of my passion for military spouse employment. So I met my husband at a job fair. I was working as the program director as the Boys and Girls at the Boys and Girls Club. He was recruiting for the Marine Corps, and we were at a job fair, and our booths were next to each other. And so he was in his dress blues, and everyone's like, that was the end of the story right there. He was in his dress blues, and our tables are next to each other. We go on our first date, and I'm like, well, I'm moving at the end of the year. I was headed to work for the Jacksonville Jaguars because for the NFL because my master's degree was in sport management, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go down there, work for them. And he's like, well, I'm PCSing. Nobody knew what that meant at the time, right?
Yeah.
Permanent change of station, to California at the end of the year. We're like, okay, perfect. Well, fast forward 9 months and we're married, and shocker, I was not moving to Florida. I moved to California. And so, I always say I didn't know that I knew moving meant I had to give up a job. I didn't realize I had to give up my career. And that's not unique at all in our world, but that was such a just life altering realization for me and for so many of us. And that really changed the trajectory of um, my career, my employment options.
Yeah.
And so Tiny Troops actually developed out of that lack of employment opportunities for myself, and also lack of physical activity opportunities for my boys, because most of the base programs at that time started at age 5. While I'm sitting at home with 2 toddlers, we were in Okinawa at the time, so quite literally on an island, losing my mind because I can't find a job, losing their minds because we're all stuck at home on an island. I'm like, okay, this isn't working, guys. So brought in my soccer background, my business background, started Tiny Troops, which was actually Little Strikers Okinawa then, is how we started there. And so we kind of, married that together. And once it started growing, I had to start hiring people. And so Michelle, actually, my assistant director now, was my very first coach over in Okinawa. Met her there. And 10 years later, she still works for me, which is so awesome, as throughout our moves. And
Yeah.
how it grew was, I said, hey, do you have a job lined up when you PCS? And because she was leaving Island, and she said, not yet. And I said, well, I have an idea. So let me know if you're getting a job, but hold off a little bit. And so that's kind of how Tiny Troops started. And we've been going for 10 years now. We've been going. We've had the awesome opportunity to serve over 30,000 kids at this point now.
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
thank you. We've employed over 750, mainly military spouses, but also some active duty members, some veterans, and some civilians, but definitely primarily military community members. So just so proud of that, just being able to give our mainly spouses just something that they can do to call their own and that they can feel good about.
Yeah. You've said so many things in
I know,
that
I'm
bit.
sorry. That
No,
was a
no,
whole
in a good way. But I don't know if you got a chance to meet Sherry Berry. Her episode actually came out
I don't
yesterday.
know. I don't know.
And in reality, listeners, like, we're recording in December, so it came out on December 17th. But she is also a military spouse, and she wrote a book called It's Your Turn, which is a great, you should go read it.
Oh,
It's the book I
yeah,
wish I
yeah.
had as a new military spouse, like way back.
Right.
But she said in that episode, and why I'm saying this is that military spouses have an unemployment rate of 7 times the
Mm-hmm.
national average. And I was just like, I knew it was high, but I could not believe, like, even when I was typing out the show notes, I'm like, 7 times the national average. And if you're not a military spouse, and Amy hit the nail on the head, is we all think we know what we're getting into when you say, okay, I'm marrying someone that's in the military. You think you know what's going to happen, but in reality, until you're doing it and you're in the trenches, for lack of a better term, you really have no idea what that means, unless maybe you grew up in that lifestyle. I could see maybe you could understand that.
Yeah,
But
no idea. And before marrying into the military, I thought literally what I knew of it was, um, support our troops. Yeah, of course yay, support our troops. And gosh, I would never want to be one of those wives. That was literally about
yes.
the scope of it. And like I said, even going into it, I'm like, oh yeah, I love him. Like, yay, let's be married. Like, and you just don't know. You don't know at all. And I always say, like, I chose him, I chose love, and I didn't necessarily choose that life because I didn't know what that life was, right? And so it was a big reckoning that I had to come to accept, honestly. And it actually changed. I always tell this story. Was I went to a women's retreat at one of the church, I think it was called Koza in Okinawa, was a church we went to. And the pastor's wife, they were former military, and she gave at one of the women's luncheons, she gave a speech about is it unfair? Yeah. Is it unfair that you're stuck home with the kids? He's gone. You're away from family. You don't have a job. Like literally, you're struggling like day to day. Like this, mental health is struggling. Like your physical health because you're kind of depressed about stuff. And she said, can you sit home and be miserable and say this is unfair because it is, and make your life miserable, make his life miserable? Absolutely. And ruin your marriage? Yeah, you could, or could you say, this is what it is. Yes, it's unfair. Acknowledge that, but make the best out of it. And that literally was a turning point for me. And I thought, you know what? I could either get divorced, really, and that
Yeah.
would be the choice, or just try to make the best out of it. And that was the turning point. And I learned, at each duty station, really, it stinks. Like a lot of it stinks. There, of course, there's great parts, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish that. There's
Otherwise, no one would ever do it.
right. There's great parts of
Yeah.
being in the military, but I'm not taking away from that at all. But that part, it's like you have to acknowledge it, but then like, okay, like get out of your comfort zone, do the things, go to the spouse potluck where you don't know anyone. It's the most awkward thing of your freaking life, right? But do those things and make it the best you can. So yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about as you were talking that I don't think we do much unless we feel like we're not going to change when we're comfortable. And so when you were
Mhm.
saying like I was going out of my mind, my kids were going out of their mind, right? I had a 2 and a 5-year-old. It probably wasn't the time of your life where you're like, let me start a business. Like I have
Yeah.
so much free time. But unless we're uncomfortable, we don't make a change. And
Hmm.
so I feel like I hit that point too, and in 2020, and that's where this podcast came from. My husband was deployed and I had a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-month-old. And it's
Hmm.
2020, so no one can come out here and help me.
Hmm.
And I'm losing my mind and they're probably losing their mind. And I was like, I need something. And so I just started dreaming about what I could do, even though, again, he was gone for a seven
Hmm.
month deployment. It wasn't really the time to start something, but you
Right.
can dream.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
the potential, and that just I think that changes your mental health when you have something that you're like looking forward to, or you're setting goals towards, or
Hmm.
I think it is that mindset shift.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, like business and career, I was confident in that. Like I knew I was good at that. And so, we didn't get married until we were 28, 27, and 28. So we
Yeah.
even had kids, later. And so I was always career oriented and I knew I was good at it, right? So like decisions, bam, 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 good. I could do that. I could CEO and stuff all day, right? But then throw these little humans in my life and a marriage and a husband who's gone on top of all those. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't think I'm so, you're so I was
Yeah.
so unsure of myself and all these decisions and all these things. And so I was like, I don't know that I'm so good at this. And so that was unsettling, not being confident in something that was so important. And so having, like you said, starting the podcast or something, or starting this business, even though, that in and of itself, it's not like you're just so good at this new thing, but I at least knew steps to take and like things I could do for sure that I was confident in. So that was nice to have that.
Yeah, that's a great point because I feel like you've proved to yourself at that point in your life that you can do these things, or you can do the
Yeah.
personal development side of things. But
Yeah.
the
Right. Right.
foreignness of like being a mother, is really challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the one other point of that is I feel like that's, if you are a military spouse listening to this, and those are seasons when you might think, I'm not going to put myself out there at that awkward potluck like you were talking about,
Hmm.
but I think it's so important to have a community around you as well, because
Hmm.
that is like where I would go. I had a group of friends when we were overseas, And we had kids kind of various age ranges, but it's like I didn't know what to do when my son was having colic, and I could go to my girlfriends and be like, how
Mm-hmm.
do I manage this? Because I'm 5,000 miles from my family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really much help, but making sure you have community around you, and it can be awkward, but I'm a true believer you could use books as a form of conversation. So I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're a bookish person, but I think they're the best conversational currency you can have. Join a book club. Start a
Yep.
conversation at the playground, and maybe you end up about books, and it takes out kind of that awkward small talk. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something you love, and if they're a reader, then they love it too. And it's, maybe you find a friendship there.
Yeah, or if you actually take, I've had a lot of times at the parks where I have, because I love physical books still.
Yeah.
So I always usually have a physical book with me. And so if I'm at the park, I'll have a physical book. Or if I see someone, like I'm walking while the kids are playing and see someone with a book, I'm quick to be like, oh my gosh, I
Yes.
love that book. And then that starts, I'm probably because I actually take that from being a military spouse. Like that forced me to get outside of my shell and like be
Yeah.
the first one to make a conversation and be awkward. That I think that is honestly a skill I know I've learned from being a military spouse, that I'm okay to be the first person to make conversation. So I'll do that all the time. And so I'll just stop and be like, oh my gosh, I love that book. Have you read this one, this one? And so that starts a ton of conversations.
Yeah. Absolutely. My college roommate came to we had like a 4th of July event, and it was like military families. It was through my husband's work, but they were staying with us for the weekend so they can. And she was like, everybody is like so nice and open. I was like, yeah, because you kind of have to be in this
I
lifestyle.
know.
Like a life that quote, life is short. I mean, really, like your time here is short. So you got to make
Yeah.
friends real quick.
You're like, yeah,
So
and that lady, she actually was in the delivery room with me with my second kid.
yeah,
Like,
she
oh
was
yeah,
my
I only knew
emergency
her for three
contact.
months.
Day
Yeah,
two.
she was in there. Yeah, her.
Yeah. So, well, for listeners that maybe want to find a tiny troops near them, how does that work? Like, do you guys decide where you're going to start the next program? Or if they're like, hey, I love soccer and I'm at this base and we don't have one, how does that work for you all?
Yeah, so okay, so our website's tinytroopsoccer.com. So you can go there, type in where you are and see if we're located there. But we base it on a couple of factors, like how big the base is, the
Yeah.
installation is
Yeah.
there, how many dependents are located there. So there's a couple of things, a couple of factors we look into to see if we think it'd be viable for us to come
Yeah.
there. See how many requests we get to come there. We have kind of started an affiliate program where if we're not there and we're not planning to come there, where we have it set up that we can provide you all of the information and materials, training plans, business structure, all that good stuff, where someone would be able to create their own and start their own branch, their own business of Tiny Troop Soccer. So we are rolling that out
Wow, that's
this year.
cool.
So yeah, so that's an option too.
Yeah. Wow. That's like a great idea. Because as you were talking, and I was saying that, because obviously there's some hesitancy in the other workforce, let's say, to hire military spouses because
Mm-hmm.
they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking that as you were talking, like, but then once you have someone on your team, then they could just take it to the next duty station.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
that's one thing we are super proud of, that I always say is that this truly is a job that you um not as at this point haven't been able to take with you, but you have been able to go and find another location to coach at. So for example, we've had a coach that was at MCBH Hawaii and then is now coaching at JBSA in San Antonio. Or there's one who, started at Fort Bliss and is now in Texas and is now at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. So like I have a lot of long-term employees, which is unheard of, right? In
Yeah.
military spouse community. So I mean, I've had people, like I said, my assistant director has been with me for 10 years. My
Oh,
director
that's
of
great.
operations has started as a coach. She's been with me for 9. I've had people like 7, 8, 2, like literally I've had multiple people for multiple years, which is so incredibly cool. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. What a gift for you and for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think so too. I appreciate it so much. So thankful for them.
Yeah. Well, you've also had a book, which I've now read to my kids because I got a copy of it from
Oh,
you, but
yay.
I Will Be Okay. And it's about adventures of the military kid. Tell us about
Hmm.
that journey and writing that
Yeah.
book?
Yeah, so I always had it was just a passion project, right? And so I came up with it because it's the life of my kids, right? And people
Yeah.
think ask me, how'd you come up with that? I'm like, it's literally just wrote down the life of my children. And so the important part is exactly what you said is that community. So I just wanted to explain, like, it starts with a dad's being deployed. So my kids have gone through that their entire lives, right? Multiple times. And so it's literally like he's gone, and then I'm sitting there as the mom with my kids, and the void is clear. We all just
Yeah.
feel it physically, emotionally, just literally. You're like sitting at the table, like, okay, he's gone, and we need to move forward. And so I wanted to show that, and then just show how the importance of finding stuff and community for your kids, but then also the extra benefit of finding that community for your kids, how it benefits you as the spouse as well. And so I use the example of soccer, tiny troop soccer, but just signing your kid up for that, like, and then the apprehensiveness of the kid saying, I don't want to do that, it's something new, but how that not only has the impact of just having something on the calendar for you all to
Yeah.
look forward to. So, it's like, oh, we have soccer. We all have to get out of the house. We have to go. We signed up for this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Even though it's a hassle getting out of the house, but sometimes, like, I remember there was a whole first week where we didn't even leave the house, right? Where my husband was gone. So it's like it forces you to get out of the house. It gives you something to look forward to. And then a lot of times we've heard so many stories through Tiny Troops where those parents were that's where they found their first friends at an installation, was sitting there at Tiny Troop soccer practices. And so it truly does build the community for the parent, like for the
Yeah.
whole family. So, and then even my coaches who are mainly military spouses, a lot of them have found their best friends in the parents of the players they're coaching because they've been at Tiny Troop. So, like, it's kids soccer, but it means so much more to me and my staff,
Yeah.
because we get to hear the stories and see the impact of it. So I just wanted to share that in the book I Will Be Okay: Adventures of a Military Kid, and just really show, like, it's so important to be intentional, to get out and make sure you're doing something, make sure you have not only just an activity, but a physical activity, because the impact of that, not only on your physical body, the positive things about having a moving body, just the health impacts of that, but
Yeah.
also the positive impact on your mental health because of moving your physical, your body,
Yeah.
the physical activity, especially for military kids, is so, so critical, because they face so much more, instances of negative impacts to their mental health because of the stressors of military life. And
Yeah.
so we really have to be cognizant of that. And it doesn't always have to just be the traditional means of, therapy or a traditional mental health book, right? Like, we
Yeah.
need to have things that we always say, in our soccer classes, for example, a lot of times we do games like red light, green light, just random things that we say they don't even realize they're learning soccer because they're playing this other thing. It's kind of the same thing. They don't realize that we're really trying to, push into improving their mental health because we're playing soccer. So
Yeah.
kind of that thing. So that's just the story around that in my book.
Yeah, I think that that applies to adults as well. I didn't, my first career was actually a physical therapist. So I
Okay.
know
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but movement is such a benefit to kids and adults alike.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. Yeah.
not from just like your physical, but also doing, to your point, of things that are completely, doesn't seem like exercise. Like I would tell people, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't need to go sign up for a gym membership for your physical
Yeah.
activity. Like gardening, turning on some music and dancing around the kitchen, taking
Mm-hmm.
3 10-minute walks a day. Like you can break it up so it doesn't necessarily feel like exercise, but
Mm-hmm.
there are so many benefits
Right.
to for kids and adults from that movement.
Right. Yeah. And I always encourage, like, sometimes when my boys are at their soccer practices, sometimes I walk around the
Yeah.
field, just things like that. Or sometimes I sit and chat with friends. So it's just an opportunity, even just being outside, like I said, getting out of the house, because those are
Yeah.
difficult times where you could easily sit inside because you're sad. You're like, how am I going to do this? I'm here with three kids.
Yeah.
Like,
It's overwhelming.
you,
You're overwhelmed.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And so, again, just having something as little as a soccer practice for my 2-year-old on the calendar, at least we have something that it's like, okay, we need to leave the house. Like, let's get out. And, I compare it to sometimes I when you used to have the time to watch a show, like a weekly show, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, there's another Monday. The show's on a Monday. That's one week down, right? So it's just kind of helping you have a countdown even to help pass the time while they're gone. So there's just so many benefits of it. And so, yep, just packaged it in a fun little story for hopefully kiddos to use and parents to use just as a fun tool.
Yeah. And the beauty of tiny troops, right, if you going is that everybody there is probably in a similar
Mm-hmm.
situation as you. So
Mm-hmm.
that already helps with the connection point, I
Right.
think, when
Yeah.
you have shared experiences and circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It does.
how was it finding an illustrator? Because listeners, we didn't quite say it. This is a picture book, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Like it's so bright.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times my kids grab it off the shelf, and I feel like they're
Uh-huh.
drawn to the bright colors and the
Uh-huh.
story, and maybe because they realize, like, underlying that they're this child too. But how was that with getting an illustrator and bringing that piece of it to life?
Yeah, so I actually used a person off of Upwork.
Yeah.
So I found him on Upwork, and then we just started a relationship from there. And he was very open and communicative, and it was fun because he was not familiar with the military world, and so
Okay.
he would create. I think I'm just looking at the book here. The first maybe like the first couple pages he had a military base. I'm like, no, 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 that's not. Yeah, I think he had like the like what people think the
Yeah.
houses look like that we live in, which we all know are not the actual houses that we live in. It's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 you got to make that look more basic and not as nice,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So just things like that. But then he would have ideas. I'm like, oh, that's great. So it was really good. And I think the important part of that is just being communicative and saying, giving good feedback in a timely manner, saying, oh, no, I don't like that, and not feeling like you can't say something,
Yeah.
or feeling like,
Like a
I,
collaboration more,
yeah,
right? Like
a
you're,
real
yeah.
collaboration. Yeah. And one cool thing I totally forgot to tell you is, the dandelion is the flower of the military child
Yes.
because it blooms wherever you're planted. And so we have a hidden dandelion on every page. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Oh, no, we
And
didn't. We
so,
had to go back
yeah,
and read it tonight.
and so you'll have to find that on every page.
Oh, that's fun. My kids will love
Mhm.
that too because they
Yeah.
love the books like that.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. All right, we're definitely I'll email you. We're going to do
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
project. So, well, thank you so much for sharing about Tiny Troops and your book I Will Be Okay. And listeners, if you're like this all sounds great, I will have links for all of that in the show notes. But
Perfect.
let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about who you are as a reader. So, what genres do
Ooh.
you enjoy?
Okay, so I am a very type A, like realistic person. So most of the time you can catch me reading business books or self-development. So I love those. I feel like you can always be learning, you can always
Yeah.
better yourself. But I have some of my girlfriends have kind of, I say gotten me off track, but really just given me some fun in my
Yeah.
life.
They've broadened your world a little bit.
Yes, yes. So I would say if it's not a business book, generally it's more of a suspense, like
Okay.
maybe like psychological thriller type of thing. I would say I like those.
Sure.
Hmm.
Do you guys have a book club or they just send book recs your way?
It's not, I would say it's an unofficial book club
Okay.
because we tend to, we're not reading them at the same time,
Sure.
but we get to the point where we've all read them and then we kind of gather and talk about it. So an
Yeah.
unofficial book club.
I love that. How in your busyness do you find time to read?
I don't know. actually, here's a problem. So I'll tell you why I don't read fiction a lot is because those are the ones I stay up too late. And
Hmm.
those are the ones I'll be up until like 3 o'clock in the morning and ruin my whole next 2 days because I'm old and have to have sleep. And so that's actually why I don't read fiction
Yeah.
that often. But yeah, the business books, like I'll take it if I'm waiting in car line. I'll always make sure I have a book. So that would be like 20 minutes for pickup line for the kids that I can read it.
Yeah.
Or, like waiting at a doctor's office or something like that.
Or like you said, take it to the park. Like you always, it sounds
Yeah.
like you always have a book with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best strategies. I think it's, oh my goodness, the Atomic Habits author. His name is skipping my mind right now.
Yeah.
James Clear.
Yeah.
Yep.
James Clear. Yep. Yep.
That's
Yep.
one of his things, right? Is for habit making is having
Uh-huh.
whatever you're trying to make a habit, it's got to be convenient.
Yes,
And
for
where you can
sure.
see it. Like, he
Yeah.
talks about having supplements, like, at least I thought about, like, I have my vitamins up in the cabinet above my stove. And so I
Uh-huh.
don't see them per
Right.
se, but it
Uh-huh.
has to be like visual and it has to be convenient. So,
Right.
yeah, that's where carrying a book with you really helps.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you have brought a few books with you in the form of a
Yeah.
book flight. Can you tell us how you chose these books?
Okay, so the first two are ones that I tell everyone about because they were instrumental in building my business. So I went from with Tiny Troops, it was, oh, this is fun, like I said, kind of got me out of the house, was able to give me something to do. And so it it kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay, more and more kids are doing this. I'm starting to make some real money. I'm needing some real systems. Like, this is a real business. I need to
Yeah.
do something with this. And so I don't even know how I came across this book, but Traction by Gina Wickman, that was the book I credit to like creating Tiny Troops. I still have the worksheet today in one of my binders that like outlined the company, and it's so
Wow.
funny looking back on like what my problems, my issues were then. You outline it and where you think you would be in 5 and 10 years, and luckily we have surpassed what I put down then, so that's cool to see. But
Yeah.
that really just helped get a structure, so I recommend that book. And then Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, that I wish I would have found that book earlier in my business, because that really teaches a structure of paying yourself. Because for so long,
Yeah.
many business owners are saying, well, I didn't get to take money until, so many years into my business. And, um, it teaches about just really how to structure your business financially so it
Yeah.
benefits you and you're making sure everything is, how it needs to be. So those are two business
Yeah.
books I love.
So
And
that was,
then,
yeah,
oh,
that
go
was to
ahead.
say. So that was Profit First by Mike
Yeah.
Malowitz. Those both sound great. I haven't heard of either of those, but definitely adding them to my
Yes,
list.
you
So
should.
thank you.
You
Yeah.
should. Uh-huh.
All
Okay.
right.
And then switching gears totally. So I'm definitely not a sci-fi, like it's just not my genre, can't get into it. But my girlfriends this year said, you have to read this ACOTAR book. So that is an acronym for A Court of Thorn and Roses that I believe this year was the year it was super popular, maybe last year.
Yeah. I feel like it's
Um,
been buzzing for a while.
a while, maybe. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm just new
No,
to
but I
this.
don't know how, I mean, I can't give perspective, but I'm like, you finish what you're, and then I'll add.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a series of five
I'm
books,
not
six
sure.
maybe.
Yeah.
But it is like a sci-fi type thing. And I kept saying, you guys, I'm not gonna like it. Like, this isn't what I like at all. And they're like, but it's so good. Like, I really think you'll like it. Just try one of them. Just try. And even like the first 30 pages, I'm like, but then I got sucked in, let me tell you, sucked in and all the characters and their stuff. And it's definitely for a mature reader.
Okay.
So okay, it's on the
Got some
mature
spice in
reader.
it.
It's got some spice in it. So those were, I would say that was like a guilty pleasure book
Yeah.
this or books this season.
Yeah. What I was going to add and say was that when I was saying, oh, it's been buzzing for a while, because I have yet to pick it up because I feel like it's going to be a commitment. Because not only is it maybe, like we said, I think it's 5 books, but they're also very long. And I'm just like, this feels like if I start this, it's a big commitment. And so I have
It
resisted
is.
at this point
It's a
for that
commitment.
reason. I need to find a space and time to do it.
It's a commitment. I think I kind of took like maybe a week. I was like, okay, I got to take a break. And then I think that lasted like a week. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to read the next one. But it becomes, when I get engrossed in a book, that's why I said I have to be very
Yeah.
careful. It's like every waking moment. Like I probably ignore my family a little bit because every waking moment I'm reading
Well, you
like
got to know what's going to happen.
I know I'm staying
Yeah.
up late and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So that was A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And one more follow-up. Have you read the rest of them? Did you go read the next books after that?
So I read that series, but I haven't read any of her
Okay. So
other
you read the
books.
whole series. Okay.
Yeah, I read
All
the whole
right.
series, but not any
Okay.
of her other, because she has another series that's like similar and like I guess it's kind of like has some little tie-ins, but it's
Yeah. Like
not
the
like a
universe ties.
continuation, but
Okay.
like something like. But I'm like I can't
Yeah. You
like
have to
no.
find another chunk of time for that
Yeah,
commitment.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, and then lastly, you brought one more book as a dessert pairing today.
I did. I loved Never Lie by Frida McFadden. So Frida does a lot of like suspense, yeah, like psychological thriller suspense type things. And
Okay.
so that was a really good one. It
All
was
right.
about like a couple goes to the house of a therapist who ended up missing, and there's just a lot of ties and like crazy stuff. So that was just kind of a page turner. So I really liked that one.
Yeah. Another one to keep you up late at night.
Yeah, seriously, that's why I can't do it. And I was like, you guys stop. Like, I can't do it.
Maybe
So,
you just need like, I hate to say a more boring page turner, but then would you really get through it?
well,
Like,
that's why the business books.
yeah,
So
true.
that's
There
why.
you go.
And
That's
then
your
I don't stay up
balance.
late writing those, reading those. Those actually make me fall asleep. So I have to spend intentional time otherwise
Yeah.
reading those. And then, no.
There you go. You got your balance worked out. I like
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So the last one was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much for bringing those with you
Yes.
today. How I love to end our show is with a speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Are
Okay.
you a rereader?
No.
Okay. What
Nope.
is one book you've read that has changed your life?
To be cliche, the Bible.
I love it. We've gotten that one, I would say, quite a bit for that answer,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Where is your favorite place to read?
Ooh, in a chair with a coffee and a
Mm,
breeze
yeah.
flowing through the windows.
Can't do that right now in Illinois.
No, no. Nope. Right now, yeah, Christmas tree by the
I
Christmas
mean, it
tree.
would be quite the breeze.
Yeah, quite the breeze. Quite the breeze on the
Yeah,
frozen.
exactly. Well, and then lastly, what are you reading next?
Ooh. I actually have a Kristen Hanna book
Yes.
on my bedside that I've had for a while because I haven't had time. And
Okay.
I've been very disciplined, thank you very much, because I know if I pick it up, that what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so what we've already discussed, I'm going to stay up late. And right now with everything happening and going on super busy, just do not have time for it. So
Yeah.
it's sitting there waiting patiently. So
Yeah.
Kristen Hanna sitting there.
Okay. It's funny because my book club or our book club, my like local book club,
Mm-hmm.
we were reading Kristen Hanna's Winter Garden
Oh, okay.
for this month because we thought it would be a fun like December read. And we were debating about when we were going to meet. And I was like, well, my mom is a reader. Like I could tell her to read this book. And then she was here for 2 weeks. So like
Yeah,
then
yeah,
we
yeah.
could meet while she's here. Well, then I didn't get around to it. And it was going to be a quick turnaround from our last meeting. So we were like debating to meet before or after the holiday. So I didn't tell my mom. Well, she shows up and she's like, I'm reading Winter Garden. And I was like, oh my gosh, like really? Because I was going to tell you to read that. But then we decided we were going to meet after the holidays. So I didn't tell you to read that. And it's just funny. Small
That
world.
is funny. That is
So
funny. with April being the month of the military child, just super excited to celebrate the resiliency of military kids and just how strong they are. And so that's, again, one of the reasons writing I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid, just to showcase the experiences our military kids have and just to celebrate them. So super excited to have the book out. So if you would like to purchase any to give to a group of military kids or sponsor any for military kids, please reach out and I'd be happy to help you with that.
Yeah, I think that that's wonderful because we talked about we chose this military life and our kids did not.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I do think, like you said, you've brought up some great points about life lessons or things like you've learned of your personality through this journey. And I do think there are great things for our children that they learn in this, but it is not an easy life for them either.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I always equate it to, they deal with the same stressors and the same experiences of missing dad, missing family that we do, except we're adults and have tools to deal with it. And
Yeah.
we
And
still have
perspective.
feelings we deal with, right? So imagine having those same feelings and everything as a 5-year-old child without that toolkit and perspective and experiences, right? And so it's definitely our job to support them as much as we can with as many tools and books and, activities that we can.
Yeah. So if you know a military kid, give him a hug this month.
And a book.
Yeah, a hug and a book. And I always feel like a book is a hug right there. So
Yeah, there you go.
thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Amy Schweizer. Her book flight included 2 books that helped her build her business, as well as 2 books to read for fun. If you'd like to find out more about Tiny Troops or about her book, I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid, make sure you head on over to the show notes at bookishflights.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.